Today I'm going to be showing you how to get the fat off the pig skin and to render it in a lard using a crock pot. It's very easy. I've already done the leaf lard. The leaf lard is the lard that is inside the pig surrounding the kidneys. And we did find a kidney. Surprise! We found a kidney in the leaf fat of the pig. Yay. This last night, it took almost all day and half the night. I turned it off and then started it back this morning. I have the back fat left of the pig that we butchered, and I'm going to show you how to remove the skin and get the fat ready to be rendered in a crock pot. I've already done the leaf lard, which is the fat that is surrounding the kidneys, and that is good for pastries, pie crust, flaky, anything you want flaky. And we got quite a bit off of that. I am still finishing it up. There are 3 types of fat. The belly fat is where you get your bacon from your pig. The back fat is the fat that is directly underneath the skin of the pig. And the third one is leaf fat. The leaf fat is surrounding the kidneys, and the leaf fat is good for the pastries, any baking items that you want flaky, and the back fat is excellent for sauteing and frying. It has a very high smoke point, so you can get at really high temperature and not have to worry about burning. And so this is really good to season your cast iron, sauteing, just the different kinds of fats. Alright, I'm going to show you how to remove the skin from the fat, get the fat, get it in the crock pot, and then I'll show you how we can it. And this can go in the refrigerator. And it is shelf stable. You can put it out, but I wouldn't put it out at room temperature unless you know you're going to use all of it within 6 months. But I would rather put it in the fridge, and then your surplus of your lard that you don't think you'll use within 6 to 12 months, pop it in the freezer. It'll last a couple years. First things first is that this is the skin side, this is the fat side. There's always little bits of meat that you want to make sure you get those off, because that will make your lard go bad. So you want to make sure that's all off. And then just the next thing this is so simple. Next thing you do is just separate that from the skin and just cut it away from the skin, just as close to it as you can get it. My husband said this was a sharp knife, but close to the skin as you can get it without getting any of the skin. But you want to try to save as much fat as you possibly can. So this takes a little bit. Main thing is to make sure all the tissue, the meat bits, are off of it. And then you should be able to just, it is also, if you could like half freeze this, make sure it's really cold, because after handling it, of course it's gonna be greasy, slippery, because it is just fat. With any kind of oil, it gets slippery. So I'm going to continue doing this and I'll be back. Now that you got all your fat taken off your skin, you're just gonna cut it into pieces that will render quickly, melt quickly in a crock pot. Now that you've got all your fat off the skin, all the meat off the fat, cut it up in chunks and put in your crock pot. You add just a teensy bit of water and I'm gonna put like 1/8 of a cup in here. And this is just to prevent it from sticking, and it will evaporate. So now you're going to put this on the base. Turn it on low and let it cook. Now you can either leave the lid off or put it like this. This is the rest of the leaf fat. I shut it off last night and this morning I turned it back on, so now I'm just getting it back up to, it's just now bubbling. But this is so easy. When you do this, you're gonna feel like you've done it wrong because it is just that easy. While we're waiting, I just wanted to say, if you are on the fence about doing your own lard, don't be. It's super simple. It takes time, so you might want to be able to have that day, set it aside. That way you can be in and out, and every hour or hour and a half you stir it. That way all the top gets down on the bottom and all the bottom gets on the top. That way the heat is all through it, so it'll render quicker. Now some people say to put it through a grater to grate it up in smaller bits, to grate this fat up into smaller bits, and it doesn't take as long. But I feel like it's gonna lump all in there and I don't want that mess. So a lot less mess. You know, if you could just use a couple knives, it takes a little bit of time, but it is just as effective doing it in the chunks than it would be to grate it, I think. Another tip would be just to keep it like half frozen. Everything is always easier to cut when it is half frozen. So that is another option. There's another option for you. But it's super simple. And I hope that you will try this. If you raise your own pork, if you butcher your own animals. Now, we raise our own, but we take them to the butcher to have them butchered. And I just had to tell them, you know, I want the fat to render into lard, and they did a wonderful job. I didn't barely have any bits of meat to take off the fat when I was taking it off the skin. So it was very nice to be able to just cut it and go. Another thing, when you're cutting it off the skin, if you feel like it's hard to cut, you're probably into the skin. So just raise your knife up a little bit and go from there. Okay. Now this has been going for a couple hours. I did have to add a little bit more water to it. But you see the liquid down in there? Now you're probably going to want to take that off right now and put it in a jar, but don't. You want to wait until that liquid is crystal clear. No cloudiness at all. So just mix it and let it keep cooking, because those are the impurities in the water that you put in there. You want it to cook off. So you want pure lard and not water and anything else. So it'll get crystal clear just about, and I'll show you when we start being able to take some off. That's crucial. Okay, now that this is rendered pretty good, I'm going to ladle it into the jar. I have a cloth, a strainer, a funnel, and a mason jar, and I'm just going to strain it from the crock pot to this over here, and anything will be caught by that towel. And this is the rest of the leaf lard. that one's full, so I'm just gonna transfer this back over here. Let my towel get in there. Let that sit and rest. Cap this and let it cool. When this cools, it will be white as snow like this one. Thanks for joining me on this lard rendering video. I hope you've learned something. It's way easier than you would think, and it is so yummy. So I hope y'all have a great day. Thanks for watching, and y'all come back.